So here we are, chapter 10, section D. Artabanus then has just reminded Xerxes of the close shave which his father Darius had back in 513 BC when Darius invaded Europe. He only just got out in time, so to speak, and it was a very, very close thing. So, therefore, what Artabanus is going to say is to Xerxes is, don't find yourself in such a precarious situation yourself, Xerxes. So we have this pronoun here at the beginning, su, you. So having spoken about Darius and his father's experience in Europe, he now brings it back to Xerxes himself and says, you, Xerxes, don't make the same mistake your dad did. You, therefore, own, yes, it's un, it's the Doric version for un in actual fact, it's nothing to do with the present participle of Amy. You, therefore, this is an imperative ending. It's bouliomai, and it's to plan or to consider, or yes, do not consider. We've got the mare, obviously. Don't even think about arriving or coming into any such danger. Such meaning, such as Darius encountered back in 513. Notice we've got the negative mare here, and we've got another negative here, mare dena, and we've got a third one here in actual fact. Now remember, these negatives in Greek do not cancel one another out. They reinforce the negative. It's a very strong negative. Do not even think about coming into no such danger. We can't use the double negative in English. They do cancel each other out in English. We have to say into any such danger yourself. And then tagged on the end is this genitive absolute. When no necessity, with no necessity being, there being no necessity. Okay, sometimes, you have to run a risk to defend yourself. Here, there's no necessity. But, well, we're not going to say obey me. It is another imperative, but obviously Artabanus is not going to tell the king of Persia, even though he's his nephew, to obey me. But take my advice. Take my advice. And then, what is the advice? Well, he says now, this is the aorist imperative, dialuo, and it means, I suppose, to dismiss. Yes, dismiss this meeting. What he's going to say, in actual fact, he's going to tell Xerxes that you go away and reconsider. And then come back and give us give us your second thoughts. He really wants him to go away. He thinks it's precipitate, and he needs to go away, reconsider, and come to a better judgment. So now, dismiss this meeting, and then I suppose that I'm going to say for Autis, and then when it seems good to you. Notice the Greek in actual fact is whenever it seems good to you. It's not hote, it's hotan, and this is a subjunctive ending on doke e. But I think we're going to have to say when it seems good to you, having considered with yourself, announce pro agoruo, the things which, that's the relative pronoun ta, the things which seem to you to be best. So it's quite simple. Go away, think about it, and then tell us what you have concluded. And Artabanus hopes that, having heard Mardonius's speech, having heard his own speech, Xerxes will go away, think about it, and come to the correct conclusion. Proskepsamenos here, notice, having considered with yourself, epi se autu. It's, this is what the Xerxes has to do. He has to go away and think about it. And then in the second half here, Artabanus expands upon in a sort of proverbial old man, this is the result of my long experience. And he says, basically he says, good planning is always a good idea. And so what does he say? He says, well, here he says, I find heurisco. And remember, verbs of knowing and perceiving, well, here, heurisco as well, which I suppose is a verb of perceiving, takes the accusative and participle. And here's your participle, on. Okay. In Attic, it would just be on. The epsilon is added in Doric. For, notice here we have the very nice example of what we call the articular infinitive. It's the article, bouliomai. Sorry, I beg your pardon, it's the infinitive, bouliuesthai, with the article, the neuter article, to. And now bouliomai is to plan, to consider, and this is to bouliuesthai, is to consider, to plan well. There's your adverb. To plan well. We might just say something like good planning. Good planning. So what does Artabanus says? He says, I find good planning to be kerdos megiston, a very great benefit. 4. If, here's the subject in fact, something, if something. Thello here, which is ethello, which is usually I am willing or I want, here means something like happens. If something happens, even to go against you, you might know the adjective enantios, meaning opposite. This is the verb in actual fact, enantioomai. If something happens, even to go against you, it has been planned, perfect passive in actual fact, it has been planned no less well. But the plan, to bouliuma, is defeated by luck, by bad luck, by lady luck, or just by chance, by mischance, by chuker. So Artabanus says that even if things go against you, good planning is good planning. It might go against you, but if it does, it's just bad luck. It's not your planning. And then he inverts it and says, notice you've got the good planning in the first sentence, and now we've got the opposite here, which is, whereas the man who has planned ice grows, well, shamefully in actual fact, I think we'd probably just say badly to contrast it with well, whereas the man who's planned badly, if luck follows him, that hoi there is autoi, the dative of autos, because this verb epepomai takes the dative case. Whereas the man who plans badly, even if luck goes with him, well, what an interesting phrase, he just stumbles across a lucky find. Yes, what have we got here? We've got heurisco, to find, and we've got the noun heurema, a find. We do use the word find, don't we, both as a verb and as a noun. You know, an archaeologist can stumble across a very important find. A find is something you find, and Greek here is it's a deliberate repetition of the noun and the cognate verb by Herodotus to stress the fact that if you've planned badly and you succeed, it's just luck. You've just been lucky. You've come across a lucky find. Whereas in fact it has been planned And bebulutai here is a repetition of bebulutai here. In fact, it has been planned no less badly by him. Okay, but the man who has planned badly, even if good luck follows him, he simply has struck a lucky find. It's been no less badly planned by him. What on earth is Artabanus saying? Well, he's trying to suggest that with the repetition of chuker here and here, that luck has a lot to play in these matters. You can't invade Greece, Xerxes, so Artabanus suggests, hoping that luck will be on your side, because, as we know, luck is capricious and things can go against you. You've got to plan properly, and that way you can work your way round bad luck. Okay, now 10e, having expanded upon the advantages of good planning, Artabanus now warns Xerxes against hubris, against offending the gods. And he says here, you see. And we get in the second line as also, you see. He's telling Xerxes to believe the witness of his own eyes. You can see this and you can see that. Now what do you conclude, Xerxes? So what is it that you see? You see how is how we're going to translate hose. You see how God, Zeus, Karaun, yes, strikes with his thunderbolt. Strikes. Now what does you see how God strikes ta hupekonta zoa, creatures that hupekonta are stand out, stand up above the others. Notice the prefix huper. So you see how God strikes with his thunderbolt creatures that stand out above the rest, and does not allow them, interesting verb, fantadsdesthai, does not allow them to parade themselves. Whereas smikra, small creatures, zoa, we understand again, whereas small creatures don't bother him. The gods are not interested in humble creatures, but arrogant, big, strong people who get above themselves, who get too big for their boots, then the gods get jealous and will strike them down. It's interesting, isn't it, that the ancients, they obviously realised that they obviously understood that lightning strikes large buildings and large trees. I mean, it is a phenomenon, you know, all the tallest skyscrapers in New York, they've got lightning conductors at the top necessarily, and lightning does hit these very tall trees, very tall buildings. And when this happened, obviously the ancients concluded that this was an angry god punishing the individual. So what does he say here? You see how, and we have the same phrase again, you see how here's the verb, aposkepto, how he hurls his weapons, his missiles. This is the lightning, this is thunder. You see how he hurls his missiles at the largest buildings always, and such trees. meaning the largest trees. So you can see how God hurls his missiles at the largest buildings and the largest trees. He doesn't like things getting above their station. For the god Zeus likes, you can say likes here I suppose, or you can say is accustomed to. Phileo can mean to be accustomed to. For God is accustomed to koluo, interesting verb, postponed to the end, to bring down to earth, to cut down, to curtail, to bring down a peg or two. For God is accustomed to bring down ta hyope konta panta, everything that is preeminent, that stands out. Everything that stands out, God is accustomed to cut down. And thus, even a big army is destroyed by a small army. And so now, having referred to meteorological activity, lightning and thunder striking buildings, now he brings it to the point. A big army can be destroyed by a small army. Katatoyonde, I suppose, in the following way. We've got a colon here, haven't we? In the following way, when God, here's the verb phthoneo, very important verb, to be jealous, to bear a grudge. Here now, if God sees a mortal being getting too big for his boots, then God says we need to teach this one a lesson. This is jealousy. God alone is great, and we saw, of course, Xerxes expressing immense hubris in his speech here. For God growing jealous, when God growing jealous throws fear or lightning, sphi, against them. This is the large army. Sphi is the same as autois, dative plural of autos. When God growing jealous throws, an embalo here takes the dative, that's why it's sphi, autois. When God growing jealous throws fear or lightning amongst them, through which they are destroyed. Aorist passive. Phthero. Through which they are destroyed. And then we have, interestingly, axios, meaning worthy. This is an axios, the negative, unworthy. And it's unworthily, but I'm probably going to say in a manner unworthy of themselves. Her auton, genitive plural. Proud armies, proud kings are brought low, are humiliated by God in a manner, and this is a terrible shame and humiliation for a great king, to be brought low in a manner unworthy of themselves. For he does not allow, the subject is God, for God does not allow anyone other than himself, phronein mega, to think big, to think big of himself, to be proud. For God allows nobody to be proud and mighty except himself. Notice how the pronoun is delayed to the end for emphasis. And what does he say in 10f? Well, this infinitive here is prominently placed at the beginning of the sentence. Epego is the verb. This is the aorist passive, as you can see. It's going to mean something like to be hastened, to do everything. I think we'd probably say to be hastened, to be hurried to do everything or anything breeds disaster, or disasters actually, so plural. So what Artabanus says here is that Xerxes is being forced to make a hasty decision, and he wants him to go away and think about it. So this verb is very strongly emphasised by its to be hastened to do. And notice it's epekthernai men, and then we have en de toi episkein, and the det there is what picks up the men. En de toi episkein is going to mean whereas in holding yourself back, in restraint. Anyway, we'll come to that in a minute. To be hastened to do anything breeds, tikto. The verb is to give birth to. It's a metaphor here. And again, Artabanus sounds like he's dealing in proverbs, and he's generalising, and this habit of generalisation, which he adopts at a number of places in the speech, gives a certain weight and dignity to his words. To be hastened to do anything breeds disasters, out of which, the relative pronoun here, tone, great disadvantages are accustomed to come, to be born. Out of which great disadvantages are accustomed to arise. Whereas in holding back, and what we have here again is the articular infinitive. The infinitive is episkein, and it's given an article in the dative here because the preposition en takes the dative. Whereas in holding back are benefits, good things. Notice it's a singular verb, isn't it? Esti, because the subject is agatha, neuter plural. Whereas in holding back are benefits, if not immediately seeming to be. So the benefits in restraint may not immediately be apparent. In holding back, there are benefits which, if they don't appear to be benefits immediately, then one would find them, the benefits, in time. So, though they may not appear to be benefits immediately, one would find them to be benefits. Notice it's hypothetical here. It's an optative, and and the subject is tis. I'm not saying someone here. I'm just going to say one, the generalising one, which again suits the generalising tone. But one would find them. We must supply to be benefits given time.